This is the news on NTAi International. I am Lami Ali. Taiwo Ozoma is a sign language interpreter, and here are the leading stories. Nigeria's First Lady urges women to join efforts to address welfare of Nigerians, fast-track ongoing rebuilding process. Military junta in Niger Republic announces General Abdurrahman Tijani as head of transitional government. And medical experts express concern over hepatitis deaths, says situation could be worse than malaria, tuberculosis and HIV combined by 2030. We go to Niger Republic, where the military junta has announced General Abdurrahman Tijani as the head of the transitional government. Obiageli Ugoki reports that General Abdurrahman Tijani made the announcement Friday on Niger's national television as he read a statement as president of the National Council for the Safeguarding of the Fatherland.
In a televised address, General Abdurrahman Tijani, also known as Omar Tijani, said his junta took over because of several problems in Niger, including insecurity, economic woes, and corruption, amongst other matters.
The action of the CNSP is motivated by the sole desire to preserve our beloved homeland, on the one hand, in the face of the continuous deterioration of the security situation of our country, and this without the fallen authorities letting us glimpse a real solution to the crisis.
He staged a takeover which started on Wednesday when the Presidential Guards unit he led seized the country's leader. This shattered Niger's first peaceful and democratic transition since independence in 1960. General Tijani, 62, has been in charge of the Presidential Guard since 2011 and was promoted to the rank of general in 2018 by former President Mahamadou Issoufou. He had also been linked to a 2015 coup attempt against the ex-president but denied it in court. Niger's coup is the latest in a wave of takeovers which have hit the West African region in recent years, toppling governments in Mali, Guinea and Burkina Faso. Tijani led the resistance to a thwarted coup attempt in March 2021 when a military unit tried to seize the presidential palace days before Bazoum, who had just been elected, was due to be sworn in. The coup has been condemned by world leaders, international bodies, including the African Union, West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS, the EU and the UN. Reports say President Mohamed Bazoum is in good health, but is still held captive by his own guards. Obiageli Ugoke, NTAi News.
Now, United States Vice President Kamala Harris and United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, in separate telephone conversations with President Bola Tinubu, have expressed strong support for Nigeria's efforts toward the restoration of constitutional order in the Republic of Niger. The two leaders also commended the Nigerian president, who is also the chairman of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Governments, for spearheading the peace moves. In her telephone conversation with President Tinubu as the instance of the U.S. authorities, Harris praised the reform initiatives of the federal government, urging the country to continue in that direction, while pledging to support democracy in Africa, including in the West African sub-region. Harris also said the U.S. will assist Nigeria in the battle against terrorism. Following the coup in the Republic of Niger that has upended the constitutional political leadership in the West African country, the chairman of ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Governments, President Bola Tinubu, will host a special meeting of the regional leaders on Sunday, July 30th in Abuja. President Tinubu, as chairman of ECOWAS, in a statement he personally signed, condemned the current political situation in the neighboring country and promised that ECOWAS and the international community would do everything to defend democracy and ensure democratic governance continues to take firm root in the sub-region. Now, former President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed concerns over the fate of Niger and President Mohamed Bazoum. The president said, and I quote, "As to be expected, I, just like millions of other Nigerians, am shocked by the latest turn of events in Niger Republic, our neighbor to the north. Concerns have been raised about the fate of democracy as a system of government in the country and in the wider sub-region, and equally so about the safety of President Mohamed Bazoum and his family. And I and my family are as much concerned about these as is everyone else. It is heartening to note that the ECOWAS, under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is already dealing effectively with the matter, and our hope and prayers are that the unwanted situation will be completely reversed and the safety and well-being of President Bazoum and his family are ensured," the former president said. Now, joining us via Zoom from Nairobi to discuss further on the situation in Niger is the Africa Regional Correspondent, Nairobi Bureau Chief, Voice of America, Mariama Diallo Crandall. Now, thank you for joining us on NTAi International. Well, we have a very poor audio here, but I hope you can hear me. Now, tell us the situation presently in Niger. Mariama, can you hear me? All right, we have audio challenge there. We're going to go back to the Zoom interview as soon as the network stabilizes. Moving on, delegates from African countries have been reacting to President Putin's remarks on Russia-Africa relations, expressing views on what they expect as outcomes of the summit and methods of implementing cooperation with the Russian Federation.
Moving together because we have common problems. Unlike us, Russia was not colonized. Africa was colonized, but we were helped by the Russian Federation to gain back our independence. And President Putin's speech moves in the direction that we are opening up trade opportunities between Africa and the Russian Federation. The Russian Federation is a big entity which you can work with to develop Africa.
So we feel that with the relations between Africa and Russia, Africa is going to be rapidly developed. Look, what we should stress on is to act in honor, in integrity, justice, consistency, and to ensure that we are very, very much principled in dealing with and ensuring that our relations are on an equal basis.
We only can gain something very good together, because nobody can gain anything just alone. And we have the same goals, you and us. We have the same values. We have the same desire to cooperate. And what we shall gain in the end or in the beginning, just first of all, to strengthen our sovereignty of your countries, of our country, to strengthen our common human values, to strengthen the life of our people, the decent life of our people.
And issues of education, issues of technology, issues of health. And what I really appreciated generally is the new partnership that is being forged between the Russian Federation and Africa. What it does, it expands our horizons in terms of partnership.
Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin has hailed African leaders for their role in global affairs and offered to expand political and business ties. He gave the commendation at the ongoing Russia-Africa Summit at St. Petersburg, Russia. Obiageli Ugoke brings us the details.
Is a peace proposal that African leaders have sought to pursue for Ukraine. He encouraged African leaders to talk to Ukraine, which has refused to engage in talks until Russian troops pulled back.
Let's take, for example, the initiative of a number of African states to resolve the Ukrainian crisis. This is an acute problem. We are not evading its consideration.
Putin reaffirmed his pledge that Russia will maintain supplies of grain and other agricultural products to the continent after its withdrawal from a deal allowing grain shipments from Ukraine. Moscow's withdrawal from the Black Sea Agreement has fueled concerns of a global food crisis, though the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres responded to Putin's pledge of no-cost grain shipments, noting that such donations of grain cannot compensate for the impact of Moscow's cutoff of grain export from Ukraine, which, along with Russia, is a top supplier to the world market.
The decision to terminate the Black Sea Initiative, the Russian Federation also terminated its commitment. Hundreds of millions of people face hunger and consumers are confronting a global cost of living crisis, and they will pay the price.
The Russia-Africa Summit marks a renewed Kremlin effort to bolster ties with a continent of 1.3 billion people who are increasingly assertive on the global stage. Obiageli Ugoke, NTAi News.
All right, we go back to the VOA Bureau Chief in Nairobi, Mariama Diallo, to speak on the current situation in Niger. Mariama, can you hear me this time?
Yes, I can. Sorry, we were having some technical difficulties. Sorry about that.
All right. Tell us the current situation in Niger.
Well, it looks like at least the junta has named a leader in Abdurrahman Chiani. They've also dissolved the constitution and all the other institutions before they overthrew Mohamed Bazoum, the democratically elected president who has been in power since April of 2021. The confusion, there were confusion the past 2 days when you talk to local sources. Some of them thought, and then they will tell you that basically some of them thought, okay, a coup happened, the coup was successful, and, so kind of trying to deal with that. But on the other hand, you would talk to certain people who would say, well, they are hearing otherwise, that they think, yes, maybe an apparent coup happened, but it wasn't confirmed. But right now, the newest, obviously, development is that a leader has been named. And we continue, the international community, I guess, from the African Union, ECOWAS, the United Nations, the United States, EU, France, and other countries have all still been condemning what has happened. But I think the interesting thing to see, the interesting development is that usually when there is a coup, and that this is why I keep saying apparent coup, is that when they recognize, the international community recognizes that there is a coup, then there are ripple effects, such as, aid is suspended. And the reason why I say this is because when things were developing, I actually contacted one organization in the United States, the Millennium Challenge Corporation, which has been financing this big project, this road project. They call it the Regional Compact, the first one, which basically is trying to get road work between Niger and Benin to see if maybe that aid is suspended or what is happening to it. But I was told, because they have very strong benchmarks, very very strict benchmarks, and democracy is one of them. Definitely having a coup will get you kicked out and will get you your grant money returned, because that has happened to other countries like for example, recently Burkina Faso. But when I contacted them, they said that they were just following basically what was happening, the unfolding developments. So no decision had been taken so far.
Several coups in the past. What do you think this recent coup, what kind of impact is it going to have on efforts to institutionalize democracy in Africa?
Well, I think all of the analysts will tell you certainly that while Niger has had, other coups since independence, they've had successful coups and unsuccessful coups. It is a blow to democracy because Mohamed Bazoum was democratically elected. He was inaugurated in April of 2021, and he's been the president ever since. And when you look at that region, that area, comparing it to neighboring countries such as Mali and Burkina Faso, and what's been happening also, in Libya, in Chad, maybe Niger was not perfect, but at least it seems like there was a little bit of stability in there, which, and also coups are just basically, because you see the other examples of what happened to neighboring countries between Mali, Burkina Faso, you have Guinea on the other side as well. It's very hard to return, from a coup, because once it starts, it's just the ripple effects, and so that's the fear. I think the effect it will have on democracy from everybody who's been condemning, who's been asking for the president to be released, who's been asking for civilian rule to be kind of reinstituted. Obviously, the fear is that it is going to affect democracy. And in that fragile region right now, in the Sahel region, where it's not just democracy, it's security, it's all the other issues, the economic impacts that these kinds of coups usually have. So, there's a lot certainly to see in the coming days, coming weeks, depending on how long this lasts.
All right. Thank you so much, Mariama, for sharing those insights.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, Nigeria is adopting measures to diversify the economy and address emerging challenges to reposition its destiny for greatness. Vice President Kashim Shettima stated this while addressing political and business leaders at the second plenary session of the Russia-Africa Summit holding in St. Petersburg. Details of this story will come to you later. You're watching the news on NTAi International. We're taking a break now. More reports when we return. Do stay tuned. Technical hitches. Now, efforts to address the welfare of Nigerians and at the same time fast-track ongoing rebuilding process must recognize and encourage the role of women at various levels. Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu made this submission when she received the wives of former governors in her office. State House correspondent NTAi reports.
Since taking over the reins of power on May 29 this year, the current administration has embarked on reforms in various sectors, including energy, education, and agriculture. Even when they promise a lot of dividends, these reforms sometimes attract a bit of temporary inconveniences. Having acknowledged this fact and taken on the task of providing relief and empowerment for women, children, and other vulnerable groups through our Renewed Hope initiative, Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu is leaving no stone unturned to build a large base that can effectively drive the national program. Her meeting with wives of former governors at the villa is headed in that direction.
These are mothers of this nation in their various stations, and we need them. I can't go everywhere all at once, so I need them to represent the government and to help me with the job. So despite the first ladies are there, nobody is encroaching on anybody. Even if it is reaching out to the next neighbor, they should help. So if we can cushion whatever inconvenience we are going through now, it will go a long way.
Women, she says, are critical to national development and as such should get more roles, a fact that her initiative is willing to push to achieve results.
I thought about, wives of in the Christian community, in the Muslim community. I've tried to reach out, and also the wives of royal fathers. All hands have to be on deck, like they used to say, for this country to move forward.
From the enthusiasm of our guests, it is obvious that the First Lady and her vision is in the right hands.
What is happening now is a recognition that women matter, that mothers matter, because we have a lot of influence in our communities, in our households. And so it's not just about bringing former First Ladies together, it's about recognizing the power that women have wherever they are in their local communities, and to understand that we can't achieve any of our development goals as a nation if we do not invest in the empowerment of women.
Prior to this engagement, the First Lady had sought and got the nod of state governors' wives as well as female federal lawmakers for our pet project. In the State House, NTAi, NTAi News.
To health matters now, medical experts are expressing concerns that hepatitis could kill more people than malaria, tuberculosis and HIV combined by 2040 if current infection rate continues. At a ministerial briefing on 2023 Hepatitis Day, these professionals are calling for quick interventions such as scaling up testing and treatment for the variants of viral hepatitis if Nigeria is to drastically reduce hepatitis prevalence rate before 2030. Elizabeth Omori reports.
Hepatitis, hepatologists say, is an inflammation of the liver that can cause a range of health problems, can be fatal, and kills over 1 million people annually. The global health burden is commonly spread from mother to child at birth, and safe sex and exposure to infected blood. A World Health Organization report on hepatitis revealed that more than 90 million people are living with hepatitis in Africa, affecting approximately 296 million people, including children under the age of 5. To reduce the prevalence, key players in healthcare are upscaling advocacy on the disease.
By supporting research in hepatitis, we can discover better treatment options, improve diagnostics, and ultimately work towards finding a cure for hepatitis B.
They say treatment intervention must be part of integrated primary health care for all ages and funded through domestic sources. Since the disease knows no boundaries, they advocate healthy lifestyle, early testing, screening, and political will of governments to strengthen vaccination surveillance. Elizabeth Omori, NTAi News.
And next on the news is a check on Saturday's weather prospects for Nigerian cities and some other parts of the world. Weather update brings us to the end of the news on NTAi International. We thank you for watching. I'm Lami Ali. Saiwu Ozoma has been the sign language interpreter. Have a beautiful weekend.